Well, here I am again. This is Chaplain Dell. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. It's Palm Sunday. I would ask you all, if you can't get to church, and you probably can't, that God's church is this world. You don't have to be in any special place to pray and to be thankful for the gifts that He's given you. Palm Sunday. Just put your two palms together and say, thank you, Lord, for everything that I have. You know, here we are, and we're in the midst of the coronavirus, and my children and my family are self-isolating in order to stay safe. The children just don't understand why they can't go out and play with their friends and in the neighborhood, and thus the story begins. They've all had firsthand experience and about the terror of the coronavirus, and the loss of life was happening, especially here in New York and throughout the country. These beautiful children looked at me as I stuck my head through the opening doorway to kiss each other on the forehead, and the oldest of them, my 11-year-old, said to me, "Poppy, are we going to die? We're so scared." My heart sank, and I looked at their little concerned faces. They were looking at me, their Poppy, for an answer to their serious question. You know, Poppies around the world are always looked upon as a fount of wisdom by their grandchildren, and now I have the difficult task of providing an answer and trying to comfort them, especially today. My answer to them is, no, you're not going to die, you're going to live. And I said, let me tell you a little story. I've been known to spout a story from time to time, so they're listening intently. Once upon a time, not long ago, a flower seed took root in some new soil. The seed struggled to grow through the tough, hard soil as it pushed its way against the pebbles and the rocks that blocked its progress to the surface. It shoved and struggled, and before long, its little head broke through the tough earth and entered this beautiful world. This little flower battled the heat in the summer and the cold, chilling winds of winter. In spite of this, the little flower continued to grow and become taller and stronger with each passing year. That little flower was the pride of the garden, and before long stood a mighty, wonderful flower. It was the most beautiful flower that the garden had ever seen, with a strong stem, bright green leaves, magnificent petals. The little flower provided shade to the smaller flowers in the garden. The honeybees would come and take the nectar from it. And as the bees flew from flower to flower, the honeybees would spread its nectar throughout the garden. It was a wonderful time. The multicolored birds would sit on the beautiful, full green leaves of this little flower, and they were all invited to rest upon the petals and sing its praises. All was well in the garden. Then one day a terrible thing happened. Without warning, the little flower was crushed by a sudden sickness and lay there in the cold, bare ground. Its stem was broken and its petals were smashed to the earth. The green leaves that once stood so proudly were slowly turning brown. It was crushed beyond recognition and lay there suffering. When the other flowers in the garden saw this, they cried, "Why would anyone want to hurt this little flower?" said a neighboring daffodil. The other flowers in the garden could be heard saying, "It's gone. It's gone. Our most beautiful flower is gone forever, and we're surely going to miss her." What are we going to do without our little flower? Cried the bluebells. The honeybees and little hummingbirds gathered and quickly from their tree branches looked down upon the little flower that was bent and flattened on the cold, hard earth. The little flower was surely no more. During the coming evening and through the night, there was a stillness in the garden. No songs from the birds. All was quiet in the garden except for the sobs and crying coming from the other flowers, the shrubs and the trees. Then, as night wore on, there were those silent prayers. The Lord of the forest was watching this from above and listened to all their prayers that night and took pity on this little flower and decided to provide a newfound strength, determination, and willpower to this little flower. As the sun rose the next morning and as the first rays of warm sunshine broke through the darkness of night, something special and unexplained was taking place. The morning haze surrounding the garden started to lift, and the dew that covered the leaves and branches of the other flowers in the garden was beginning to fade. It was then that a beautiful thing happened. There in the golden light of a new day stood the little flower, a sight to behold. During the night, when all was sleeping in the garden, this little flower had a newfound strength, started to revive and grow again, and it grew stronger than ever before. As the other flowers and birds awoke in the morning, there was awe and wonder. There stood their little flower, but it was certainly somewhat different. The stem was larger and more powerful than ever as it stood straight and tall. Its petals were bright striped red, brighter than the neighboring roses. And surrounding the red petals in the bright sunlight was the purest white border than anyone had ever seen. The center of the flower became the deepest blue color, and it looked like 50 little blue stars were twinkling in its center. It was the brightest red, white, and blue flower that the Victory Garden had ever seen, and its new name was Freedom, freedom from fear. This little flower that had been crushed the day before was now the symbol of hope for all the other flowers in the garden. There was a renewed strength and a sense of togetherness and family was spread over the garden. All the prayers of the evening before were not for naught, and never before in the garden's history was there such an outpouring of love and understanding. There was a newfound feeling of being together, of being one family. It was surely a wonderful thing. And as the garden grew in the future, it would continue to be an example to the other gardens that flourish in this great world of ours. Through prayers, strength, togetherness, love, family, and concern for one another, this Victory Garden will prevail. So you see, my beloved grandchildren, the little flower of freedom may be crushed from time to time in the Victory Garden of life, but each time it comes back stronger than ever before. This little flower became a symbol of hope and inspiration for all of us. This little flower had taught us a valuable lesson that life goes on and cannot be destroyed. You and I will continue to live and flourish if we have love and family. We are all one family in the garden, and you are my grandchildren, and all children are our flowers of freedom. This story was written for children, all children, with a desire to provide them hope and faith about what life has to offer them in the future. Just as the little flower of freedom is an example of hope in the Victory Garden, Sow our children the hope for mankind. Let us instill peace in their hearts. I hope that other grandmothers and grandfathers, mothers and fathers will take the time to tell a story to a child. It's the best way to give them hope for the future. It's the best way. And who doesn't love little flowers? Are not we, the children of our world, are little flowers? I take this time to bless you all. God bless America. This is Chaplain Dell, signing off.